Why do birds suddenly appear every time you are near? Just like me.
I'm not sure there's anyone that doesn't appreciate the music from the Carpenters. Maybe some hard rockers out there. I guess it's an individual taste, but I always loved it. Of course, I grew up with Karen and Richard basically on the radio all the while I was growing up in the 60s and 70s, and it was actually the first. I don't know what I want to call it, the first bad news event I had to deal with from the music industry in my young broadcast career. I had been on the air for roughly 9 months, I think, when Karen Carpenter passed away. And so it was the first musical tribute that I ever participated in putting together on a radio station. So that one hit me pretty hard. And I don't know if you feel the same way out there, but there is something about Karen Carpenter's voice that when she sings, I have yet to hear anybody that equals it. It has a quality, I don't even know how to describe it. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm skewed because I'm partial to the music of the Carpenters. But if you're like me and you are partial to the music of the Carpenters, you're going to love this. Sally Olson is joining me via telephone from out west somewhere. I don't know if you're on the coast or Vegas or where you're at these days, Sally, but good morning.
Good morning. Actually calling in here from Las Vegas.
All right. So how are things in Las Vegas?
Things are good as can be expected. We're still hunkered down and waiting for our fabulous city to reopen, and we're anxious to start performing on stages again. But hopefully soon. And I also have with me Ned Mills, who's my musical director and pianist, and he plays Richard Carpenter.
Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Ned. Glad to have you here as well. So the two of you have been doing this for some time, putting on this Carpenters tribute show. And my understanding is your current show is a recreation of the Carpenters UK tour from 1976.
That's correct. Yes.
So
Yep.
There may be a lot of things that you know about the Carpenters that even I, as a fan of the music, am not real familiar with. One I stumbled over as I was reading through the materials that you sent for the interview today, and that is I had no idea that Karen Carpenter was a very accomplished drummer.
Yes, she was. Many people don't realize that she was actually a drummer before she was a singer, and as well known as she was for her singing, all through her career and even up to the very end, she always considered herself a drummer who sang.
Isn't that interesting?
When they started out, she was drumming consistently in their performances and also on some of their recordings. But as they developed and grew into their career, it was highly recommended to her that she step out in front of the band. And so I think most people, when they remember Karen Carpenter, they think of her fronting the band because, once she became famous, that's what she was doing, and she was no longer sitting behind the drum set.
Absolutely. And she was she certainly was the face of the Carpenters. Sally, do your best. The two pieces we played going into the break and coming back into this segment were actually your performances of Karen Carpenter's music and not Karen Carpenter. I think someone listening casually would not have even been able to tell the difference. You're right on. What is it that you heard me try to fumble around and describe Karen Carpenter's vocal quality? I don't know how to describe it. How do you describe it?
I would describe it as when she sings, there's this quality that it's like she was singing just for you, and it's like somebody's almost whispering in your ear. It's a very intimate quality, and also vocal quality-wise, a lot of people have described it as sounding like smooth or velvety.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of describing it for sure.
Yeah, very silky in its tone and delivery, but your observation is one I was not able to articulate. But yes, it's that very intimate. It's almost as if your mom was singing you a lullaby when you were a kid.
Right, and I think one of the main reasons for that is Karen's mic technique. She would hold the microphone very, very close to her mouth when she was singing, and so that's something that I also do when I perform. It's become second nature, but that's one of the ways in which to get that very intimate and personal effect.
What is it like, Ned? You kind of the way it unfolds. Karen Carpenter is the front, and Richard, very talented musician, kind of takes the back seat. What is it like in that role?
Well, for one thing, when he takes a back seat, I kind of consider the back seat itself as the piano bench. But I think Richard is the unsung hero of the Carpenters. Sally has been doing this much longer than I have. We met about 2 years ago, and musically we clicked almost immediately. And so I had some catching up to do studying your role. In the past, I actually have played the role of Jerry Lee Lewis in another show. And so I was very humbled and actually naive about the capabilities and the musical genius of Richard Carpenter until I kind of peeled away the layers and dug deep into it. A lot of people don't realize Richard composed many of the songs that they performed. He personally selected every song, all the vocal arrangements, all that beautiful music. The Carpenters' sound would not have existed without Richard Carpenter.
Very true, and now you both are bringing it back to life, back to stage in the form of tribute. Tell me what your thoughts are as it relates to tribute artists and how you approach this different. I mean, if we look at like Elvis, there are so many Elvis impersonators and tribute artists and those kinds of things out there, and everybody just likes to sing Elvis songs. And okay, that's fine, it's fun, and I take nothing away from it. But it seems to me your approach to your Carpenters tribute performance is somewhat different.
Yeah, what's different about ours, there are many acts out there that do the music of the Carpenters, but we decided that it's very bold of us to attempt to do so, but we actually recreate their dialogue. We recreate their live performances. They actually hired some Broadway consultants to give them some advice or consulting as far as the dialogue and what to do to put a lot of visual spark and energy in the show that a lot of people did not know about if they didn't see them live. So what's interesting about what we're doing, we're actually the only act in the country, probably in the world, that gives people an opportunity to see what the Carpenters were like live, because not only, they were known for their, hits, such as Close to You and We've Only Just Begun and Superstar, but there's all this visual energy and excitement in the show that people will, after seeing one of our shows, there's a takeaway like, oh my God, I didn't know that. I didn't know that Karen played drums so well. I didn't know that Richard was such an accomplished, jazz and classical pianist. I didn't know they had all these comedy antics. And we decided we were going to give people an opportunity, for those who either did not have the chance to see them perform live or were not old enough to see them perform live. This is their one chance to see that energy.
Well, I think it's going to be an incredible opportunity. I did not get the chance to see them live. I basically went through school, took my first radio job, and Karen passed, as I said, in my very first year in radio. So this is a great opportunity for people. I'm not sure, based on all the things that are a part of the show that you do in Vegas, how much of it are you able to bring out here to Delavan, Wisconsin?
We're doing the full production.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much the thing. It's based on, like I said, the UK tour. They had some tremendous concerts that they did at the New London Theatre and where else? The Palladium, I believe.
Also Amsterdam.
Yeah, and there's a lot of interesting surprises. Don't want to give away too much about it, but for those who are old enough to remember, Richard, who, by the way, is still very relevant. He's 73 years young now. He just released an album with the Royal Philharmonic last year. And he was a big fan of Spike Jones. And there's some antics, some comedy things that he did in tribute to Spike. And we do that. We do the drum feature. He always does one big classical piano feature. I do that. But, of course, it wouldn't be the same without all their greatest hits. And we promise to do each and every one of them.
The stage you'll be on in Delavan is a very intimate location. I understand the Belfry is a fairly exclusive venue, but nice and intimate in that regard. So people are going to get an experience, that they wouldn't get at a big concert like it was in the UK, in that they'll be very close and able to really see facial expressions and your interactions with the audience.
Absolutely, and hear the actual dialogue. We recreate word for word what Karen and Richard said with each other. We are performing in character. And as an added bonus, a lot of people didn't realize, their main record label throughout their entire career was A&M Records. Mm-hmm. And the A of A&M was, of course, the famous trumpet player Herb Alpert, who just turned 85 recently and is still touring. Well, what we do also, as I double majored in college. I was a piano major and a trumpet major. I opened with a tribute to Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass.
Well, that'll be even more fun for me because I had the horn in my hand for a number of years until I was out of school.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, and it's a perfect tie-in for it. It's also really happy, peppy instrumental hits that he did. We'll be doing Taste of Honey and Tijuana Taxi and a lot of his hits as well. And so, the whole thing is just this one big energetic package. I think that all of your listeners will enjoy if they can get a chance. This will be their one opportunity to see a unique show like this at the Belfry.
Absolutely.
And visually, it's exciting too. In keeping with the authenticity, all of the costumes in our show are exact replicas of costumes or stage outfits that Karen and Richard would wear. And we also have video projections in the show as well. Yeah,
and the takeaway also is we've been told by many fans how emotional it is. They're always like, I remember where I was when I heard that song, and it's a very historical type of event. There's a lot that people will know about it. Our dialogue between songs lets them know the influences that the Carpenters had, including Burt Bacharach and the Beatles and the Beach Boys and the Bee Gees. Yeah, there's all sorts of Bee. So there's a big takeaway from what we're planning. We've got a lot of tricks up our sleeve next week.
So are we the beneficiaries here of your coming to town because of the fact that Vegas is kind of in shutdown mode and you're not performing there, and so you're getting out to places that you might not otherwise be able to get?
No, it's we had this plan for how long, Sally? We've had this on the books for
since winter or late 2019.
Okay.
We have had, like many acts, we have had some shows postponed, particularly in California and in Pennsylvania, but we're still very busy, very active. We've been in the process of writing our by the way, I'm the arranger for our show. We've been working on music for our Christmas show. We have a tour of Texas in December in Dallas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then we're going to Waco. And also live streaming has become a big concept right now as well. So we have some live stream deals we're working on also.
However, this is our first stage performance in front of the live audience since February, so since before the pandemic hit. So we are very excited to take the stage again.
Yeah.
Well, I know there's probably a lot of people that are excited that there's something that they can do here, and musically it matches up well with a lot of the folks that I know listen to this program. So the performances, you have two scheduled, as I understand, August 12th and 13th, which would be next Wednesday and Thursday at the Belfry.
That's correct.
That's correct. Yep, we're off on a flight on Monday and going to rehearsals Tuesday, and hopefully we'll have some time to maybe lay out by that. What's the beautiful lake out there?
You got Lake Geneva and you got Delavan Lake. You got two nice lakes out there to hang out by, and a lot of great restaurants as well.
A little nicer there than it is in Las Vegas right now, that's for sure. It's so hot here, we have to stick our head in the oven just to cool off.
Well, looking forward to this. I'm going to, after the break here, I'm going to give a little more of the particulars of the Belfry, just because I'm not sure how many of those you have, but we've got all the ticketing information and that kind of stuff here that we'll pass along to folks. And really appreciate you taking the time to visit with us and our listeners and keeping some of the best music, in my opinion, of the late 60s, 70s, and 80s alive from the Carpenters. Really appreciate talking to both of you, Ned and Sally.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you too, Tim. Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, Tim. We're looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you.